So we talked about good things that are coming in video game, or good things that come from postmortems, and we also talked about grandfathering. The other thing is when to schedule a postmortem. One of the big questions is it on gold? Do you do it when you have your first week of release? Some people are like, oh, it's been a year later. Let's get down to it. But when is the best time to do a postmortem?
So I should be honest here. We haven't actually done our formal postmortem yet. Our game came out in August, so it came out about 3 months ago. The first couple of weeks after it came out, honestly, we've been in development for so long. We were talking about this before. We were in development for a really long time with this game, and we were, frankly, pretty burned out after the game came out. If you get into game dev, you'll hear this a lot, but like the post-launch blues is a real thing, and I think that we really needed some time to recover before we tried to be like critical about anything in our game. Like, there's just no way that you have any perspective or like have like any emotional bandwidth to be able to do a postmortem right after launch. I think that's like a mistake, unless this was a hobby thing and you really weren't stressed out about making it. But for us, it was a pretty stressful process.
And I would say that's a very common feeling towards that. The last few weeks are what we call crunch.
Yeah.
For most time, crunch should never be as part of your schedule, but it ends up being, especially when it's a passion project like Quench was. It's clearly there's a lot of love put into it, so you can tell that everyone must have been up to the last minute, just like, oh, get this in, get that out.
There's a lot of pressure too. Like, we had deadlines with our platforms that we were on because we came out on Switch. That was like we launched on Switch and Steam at the same time. That was a lot of pressure for us as well. So we had just timelines to meet. Like, there just wasn't any way around it really. So, yeah, I would not recommend doing a postmortem right after launch. The other thing is that, assuming that you're getting reviews, they might not be universally positive. And if you're reading that critique, which I know that we're going to go into, you're already getting, like, a bunch of critique from the outside world. You're probably getting support requests, and we definitely were. And fans are starting to like give their feedback, and a lot of it's really positive, but some of it's gonna not be. And so I really don't think that people have the perspective to be able to like sit down and talk about it right after. Yeah. But now that it's been a few months, we've all had time to rest. We figured this is probably the time when we should start thinking about it. And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this talk, is because I thought it would force me to start thinking about it a little bit more. Jeff and I should be clear, my husband and I co-founded our company, so we work together really closely, and obviously we also are married, so we talk about this stuff a lot. So we already had an idea of where the major problems were, but we do want to sit down with the rest of the team and like hash it all out. So yeah, I would say a few months after, probably the best time. Yeah. Don't wait too long.
That's a big assumption. Like, oh, well, they don't even care. Like, no, we definitely do.
Yeah.
We're just trying to schedule it between everything.
Yeah.
A really funny, kind of interesting postmortem history-wise was Mega Man. When the first Mega Man released, it got really poor reviews. No one was picking up. It had very poor sales for Capcom in general.
Yeet.
And what happened was a bunch of the guys were working on it like, oh man, we're not going to work on this again, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What would we want to do if we ever got to do this again? And they said, well, we only had 6 Robot Masters. I want 8.
Yeah.
We had that special helper item. I want a bunch more helper items.
Yeah.
And they started working on it outside of company time, and that ended up becoming the prototype for Mega Man 2.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most, well-beloved Mega Man games of all time. And it was them internally saying, what was our strengths, what was our weaknesses, and then, like, let's get back to it. But it wasn't right after. They were waiting for the reviews.
Yeah.
And that was back in the day of cartridges.
Yes,
so it was brick and mortar. It took forever to ship over. And when they're like, are we not going to be able to do this? They took it upon themselves.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we're about to have our first sale with Quench, too. So look out for that. Very soon. Unannounced, but very soon. And I think waiting for those sale numbers to come in, too, like a full quarter's worth of numbers is going to be a good time to say, like, okay, now we know more. Like, because a postmortem shouldn't just be about development. It's about the whole process, and that includes our marketing process.
Yes.
And at this point, like, our post-launch process, which we're all just learning for the first time, because this is our first game. I want to be able to talk about those things as well, so I think it makes sense to wait. Yeah.
Which gets us to talking about comments. Looking in the comment section, it's hard to do that. It's disheartening. You want to talk a little bit about looking into the comment section?
Sure. So we have a small but very kind Discord community that we started. So we ran a Kickstarter back in 2016 for our game, and so we had like already kind of an existing audience. We were building a mailing list. We go to events, and so we do talk to people in person quite a bit. We grew our Discord channel like sort of in the months leading up to launch, and of course they're the people who say the most things and also the nicest things, but they're also the people who are like pretty honest with us about what's actually going on. We have our support channel there, so we did in the days right after launch read all of our support comments, and that was painful because of course support is always people who are having problems with the game. But it was also great that like our Discord members like stepped in to help people too, like kind of without prompting or anything like that. It was really kind of them. And it did help us to uncover a bunch of like critical fixes that we've since made, which is great because now we know that more people can enjoy the game. Definitely worth obviously reading that stuff. In terms of comments on, like I read reviews sometimes. I haven't read all of them, but I've read most of them. And you know, they're up and down. Like they're pretty honest too, and that's great. I've read all of our Steam reviews, and that's worthwhile, I think.
Steam reviews are on a league of their own.
I know. Yeah. We don't have a lot of them, so most of them are pretty positive. And the ones that are like that have anything else to say are usually critical in a pretty fair way. But I know that if for some reason like we went viral or something like that, I probably wouldn't read everything because there's no point. Yeah. Like yeah. People are not always nice.
It's fame. What kind? I don't want to know. That's fine.
No, that's okay. No, I think it's good that like the people who play the game generally like have been following development or like otherwise are into our genre, which is like a pretty like sort of engenders kindness. I think it helps that our game is about being kind.
Yes.
So we haven't had a lot of trouble. I was saying beforehand that I don't watch the YouTube videos too much or the streams. But I have jumped in on a couple of chats as well, and they're usually pretty nice.
We were talking about that earlier, and I was watching someone else play Quench, and I was losing it. I'm like, no, use the tremor attack. What are you doing?
Yeah.
your animals are going to starve. Why aren't you paying attention? I find that harder than actually reading the critiques sometimes. But
yeah. That would be painful to me. I think still it's going to take me a couple months before I've had enough distance to want to go back. But I know that the people who have played our game, like who have popular videos, are generally pretty, like they have pretty positive audiences as well. So I don't expect that there's anything like really toxic going on in the background, but I don't know. Maybe I just don't know enough. Right. Everyone's been nice so far.
That's good.
that I've read.
Good. So we're talking about after you get all this information, things start taking a shift, right? And this is our Halloween edition, so I wanted to bring it a little bit back. What happens in horror movies in general is they start off very spooky, they start off very scary, and then after the first release or the second one, they end up becoming action movies. So that happened with Aliens. Alien to Aliens was an action movie. We saw Terminator. Terminator was a very horror thriller type movie, and that went once again into action with Terminator 2. Then after that action starts playing for a while, we ended up getting the comedy. So that we've seen that with Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger became Bugs Bunny at one point. Right. We've seen that with the Scream movies. We've seen that with the Leprechaun. It's not even the final Leprechaun movie. There's one that was Leprechaun in space.
Yeah, or Ash, you know.
The Evil Dead.
Yeah, the Evil Dead.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
That's
the only one I watched. The third, the
first
comedy.
Two movies are very scary, and then it went straight to action comedy.
Yes.
And then every once in a while we'll actually end off with romance. I'm counting as a romance. And so we see this big tonal shift. Now, not only does that happen in movies, but it happens in TV shows, and it also happens in video games.
Yeah.
What started off as an action series, it becomes something a little bit more strategy-based. We've seen strategy games go a lot more action-based, so on and so forth. We've seen some really weird ones. The second game always used to be pivotal or the outlier in the game series. Mm-hmm. Legend of Zelda is a top-down kind of tactic-y RPG, and then it went to side-scroller action-adventure.
Right.
Action-adventure, Castlevania ended up going into RPG territory.
Yep.
And Super Mario Brothers ended up grabbing a totally different game as its base engine where you're picking up and throwing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it also went from 2D to 3D, which is like a huge shift, but that's a different kind of thing. Yes. Not tonal.
Do you have any favorite tonal shifts in movies, video games, movies?
So I was having trouble thinking about this in the horror context because I don't watch a lot of horror movies. I do like media in general that goes from being whatever it is initially to something really surrealist. So,
Dragon Ball. I hear what you're saying. Okay.
yeah. I mean, I do though. It's really, I think that's very, I don't know, I guess it's pretty postmodern, but I do like it when things that start a certain way end up like, I mean, I guess Twin Peaks kind of falls into this category, but something that ends up like super weird.
Yeah.
Gravity Falls, Night Vale, I'm like super into those. I know, again, I don't know how much they shift from their tone, but although Night Vale has changed a lot over the years that it's been out, because I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Not Nightfall.
So it's a podcast. It's a radio play basically, and it's about a radio announcer who lives in this very weird town in the desert where he reports everything as if it's completely normal, but like none of it is. Like it's all weird paranormal stuff that's happening. In their first season, they focus a lot on the radio segments. In the second season, it does become kind of more like action-y in that there's a corporation that like moves into town and starts like messing with things, and there's this whole arc around this corporation that's like quite evil. And then he and another character end up getting together, and so the third season is mostly about their romance. And I haven't listened past that, but I think it's actually moved on to this point where they're actually focusing a lot more on other characters in the town than Cecil, the main character. So, yeah, I mean, that's cool. It evolves, right? Like, they were also kind of not first-time creators, but I think it was their first podcast, all of the people who were writing and producing it. And now, like, they go on tour, like, constantly. They have 3 books out in the universe, and it's become this whole thing, right? And so I think that's probably part of what you're seeing. It's just that, like, people notice and things get bigger and better. Maybe better.
They evolve.
Yeah, they evolve. I don't know what we're going to do with our game in terms of, I don't think we're going to make a sequel. I have some ideas for updates.
The elephants come back for revenge.
Yeah.
Because remember, elephants never forget, and they never forgive.
Oh, no.
All right.
I do have a funny bug about undead elephants, though.
Sure.
Yeah. We had you can revive animals in the game using lightning, which everybody thinks is really funny. And there was, for a while, a bug where you could revive animals with lightning, but they wouldn't, like, stand up. They wouldn't have their animation where they stand up and keep walking. They would, like, continue to be slumped over on the ground, and they would just, like, slowly slide across the level until they, like, slid off the level and into oblivion and caused a million errors and crashed the game. So that was a good one. That obviously doesn't exist anymore.
A little bit of a zombie apocalypse. Once again, maybe
Not
a
so
feature.
great.
Not
yeah.
yet.
It was
Very
good.
cool.
That's the spookiest thing that happened, I think.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're just going to talk a little bit more. Thank you so much. Feel free to chime in. I'm going to keep on going into a little bit more about postmortems. One of the big things is getting into the right mindsets for postmortem. I've had to host a few of these in my past, and that it could be a difficult thing. One of the major areas you want to walk around is not creating a blame game situation. We're talking about how we can improve, and it's, well, that program, though that aspect didn't work, and that art style didn't meld, and who's watching our time, and you weren't here half the time. That's a really big thing to watch on the forefront. I find if there are tips about fixing issues and not... there's a few things that you can do. So first off, it's being aware that we all make mistakes and we're all human. Second is having a moderator. Sometimes it's not even a person from your team. Just so everyone knows, this was actually Schwarzenegger's first film. He didn't speak much English and he was spectacular in it. But yeah, bringing someone who is not attached directly to the project just to sit in and gather that information. Someone who's good at taking notes. Also someone who's good at defusing the situation in general.
I think this is a great person to have in your team in general.
Yes.
Next time we make a game, I want a producer on earlier who can like limit all of our scope and keep us all accountable.
And that's a real big one, actually. Accountability. You're gathering your information and then using it appropriately. The reason I put this one up is who is accountable? This is from the He-Man She-Ra Christmas special. Who's accountable for the puppy licking Skeletor's face? That's what I want to know. But yeah, at the end, how do we move forward with that? That's it's important to lock down that information.
Yeah, for sure.
With that, one of the big things is as games are progressing, as games are evolving, people are shooting out ideas. And the Mario and Sonic franchises have clearly had a lot of iterations at their time. Now, I actually remember when Ubisoft announced Mario X Rabbids. And in the middle of the class, I said, that looks like the stupidest idea. Who's going to give Mario a gun? Forgetting that in the top right corner over there, that was actually one of the original illustrations for Mario. Mario started off with the concept of having a gun, and you had to jump by pressing up on the jump pad. Later, it came out, and I got a chance to play it. I bought it first week, and I ate crow right in front of the class. Nope, this is fantastic. It was a super good game. Sonic taking a very speedy character and then saying, hey, let's make it turn-based. Slow everything down. These were all ideas at one point, iterating on whatever the main focus was that ended up becoming fantastic. Sonic Chronicles of the Dark Brotherhood is for all intents and purposes, a great game.
Yeah,
one of the
this one.
Yes, so this one here. This is about keeping everyone encouraged and motivated during a postmortem. So one of the things we did back in the day was we took all the staff to do their postmortem at the old spaghetti factory, going out to a restaurant,
I was going to say feed them.
Yeah.
Probably feed them.
Yeah. Food's good.
Yeah.
Alcohol may not be the best thing. I just put that out there.
No, yeah, I think food. So humans get to know and trust each other more when we eat together. So I think that having a situation where you're all eating together is probably like a way to diffuse a lot of things, and nobody's hangry, and you could probably get a lot more done. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, just trying to diffuse it. Always try to end off on a good note. I find a really cool one to do is to schedule your postmortems just before an extra long weekend. That way everyone knows that they don't have to deal with any of this for some time. The person who's been doing the moderating or taking notes can organize them well in advance, and just puts everyone a little bit more at cause.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we did it. We did it.
We did it.
Yay. You want to just say one more time, talk about the game?
Yeah, sure. So Quench is available on Switch and Steam and itch.io. It is a game where you control the weather to help herds of animals, and we just came out with our OST, and we are imminently going on sale. So
yay!
Check it
Can't
out.
wait for that. All right. So once again, thank you everyone for showing up to Play to Practice. Thank you for Tabby for bringing Quench with us and talking a little bit about postmortems.
No problem.
They are very important. And happy Halloween, everybody.
Hey.
Yay.